Welcome, bienvenidos. This is Roxana from Metamorphosis Rocks, and today I'm trying to make this video as quickly as possible because the light is coming down. It's 7:38. I was planning on making this video earlier, but I got a little sidetracked and I'm having a flare up. So I am going to talk about the movie Sinners. Now, before I even start, a few disclaimers, and you know I always like to start with the disclaimers so you know where I'm coming from. I am not a horror person. I was a horror person in the first 30 years of my life. I watched all three of the original Omen movies. I watched Chucky. I watched Carrie. There's a lot of classics that I absolutely loved and watched. Never seen a Stephen King horror movie. My two favorite movies, one of them happens to be The Shawshank Redemption, and it's right up there with The Wizard of Oz for me. And if you know that Green Mile and Shawshank are short stories that Stephen King wrote, but they're not scary movies. They're something else. They're amazing. Anyway, the reason why I'm making that disclaimer is because this movie, Sinners, was not in my radar at all. The reason being, I'm not a horror person. If you ask me about comedies coming up, there's Heads of State, there's Sirens. Sirens is not a comedy, but it's a slice of life kind of movie. And then there's the one with Rebel Wilson being a bridesmaid. I know about those because I like comedies. And if they have action in the comedy, I like them more. I don't remember Melissa McCarthy's movie about being a spy. Love that movie. Because it's funny, but it's got action in it. So anyway, True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis. Love that movie. But going back to the whole situation with Sinners, I am not a big horror person. I'm really not. And I'm also not into going to the movie theaters anymore. Although if you ask me where I'm going to be on July 11th, I'm going to be in the movie theater watching Superman. Anyway, I don't like scary movies. I just don't. So when I was told about Sinners about 2 weeks before it came out, it was not on my radar. It's just a thing. But I was really happy and excited to see what happened with this movie for obvious reasons. Now, if you know, you know. I don't recall when was the last Latino film that was a horror film. And I'm talking about for the American market. Every one of the countries that I'm mentioning has horror films. It's just I haven't seen one for the American market, made in Hollywood kind of thing. In case of Asian movies, yes, you're going to see later on in the video that there's quite a few that have broken through, but they were made in their original countries, like Korea. I can't remember if it was South or North Korea, and there was another one that was Japanese and whatnot. Native American, indigenous people. And by the way, when I talk about Native Americans, I'm talking about the entire America, North, Central, and South. This whole idea that if you're not from the United States, you're not a Native American. If you're one of the tribes, yes, you are. I don't care where you're from. If you're on this side of the world, yes, you are. And, bottom line is that all the people of color that make this country great, you rarely see a lot of content in terms of horror. Now, horror is one of the less viewed, and I'm going to prove it to you with numbers in a minute, but it's not a genre that gets a lot of views, and I guess that's part of the reason why the big studios are not investing the money that they should invest. Ironically, especially when it comes to people of color, they're making very original content. Now, they might draw inspiration from other content creators, but they have some fresh ideas. And I love this because in a world of Marvel, Star Wars, and Disney movies, where Disney has gone the laziest route of all by making movies that are live action versions of the original wonderful movies, I just want to see something new. And with all the controversy surrounding Sinners, my daughter and I agree that as soon as it comes out on streaming, we're watching it. And I'm watching it at home, where I can hide under the covers and stop it whenever I need to stop it because it's too much for me. So that's what's going to happen with Sinners. I find it very interesting because of the historical aspect of this movie, and we have been doing a lot of digging into all the TikToks from several creators. I'm going to show 2 screenshots of 2 content creators, and if I remember, and if I don't remember, leave me a note so I can do it. I'm going to put the links to their channels on the information box. But going back to this movie, I am making this video for 4 reasons. For one thing, the media is being shady with this movie, and I'm going to prove to you why. The second is some white people decided to make TikToks about walking out in the middle of the film because they felt like they were being approached by evil. The third reason has to do with this Latino content creator who decided to do a rage bait video where he's claiming that this movie was a remake of From Dusk Till Dawn, but without Latinos in it, and Dawn Till Dusk is a Latino movie, and I'm sitting there like, what? And last but not least, the fourth reason is because there's a message in this movie, or at least an interpretation of what we think the message is, which is really funny because I'm glad that somebody with a big platform is saying what I've been saying for a while now, and it has to do with religion. But let's start from the beginning, okay? But there was a screenshot of an entertainment rag talking about, making a very shady title about the fact that the movie was doing well the first weekend. Now, just so you understand how well this movie is doing, Sinners in the first 2 weeks has made $122,526,000. Dull hairs, like my friends like to say. Just so you understand in terms of what this means. I'm showing you a list from thenumbers.com where you have the top grossing movies of 2024. Now, if you actually look at them, I believe the first horror movie on this list is number 18. It's A Quiet Place. And in gross, it made $139 million in 2024. Now, I decided to go and check if this was a trend that was, in terms of horror movies being lower on the list of top grossing films. So I went and looked at the top grossing movies of 2023, still in the numbers. And the first horror movie on this list is number 19, Five Nights at Freddy's, okay? And that one made $137 million. And I went all the way down to 2022, actually. The top grossing numbers for 2022. And the top grossing numbers for 2022, the first horror movie is number 14. Nope. And Nope, by the way, is a black movie as well. And it was $123,277,000. Now, here's the thing. Nope was also a black film, as you know. There have been several black movies, but I find it very interesting that it feels like, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it feels like traditional media is helping the industry by trying to throw some shade at the little black film. You know what I mean? And that kind of bothered me. So that's why I decided to bring it up. I'm not going to make any more observations about that. Only to say, and I decided to go and look at a list of horror movies in 2024. A Quiet Place, like I mentioned before, made $139 million. Alien was number 2. Longlegs was number 3. Smile 2, I'm sorry, is number 4. And Terrifier 3 was number 5. I gotta be honest with you, I'm looking at these movies and I really don't see anything that is not white American. Let's call a spade, okay? So what I decided to do in the process of looking at what is going on is I went to Google and I made a little research on the top horror movies of 2024, and I went to Horror News Network, and they listed their 10 top. They had Arcadian, which was Nicolas Cage. They had Azrael, white. Exuma is not white. It's actually from South Korea. Heretic. I don't even know how to say that word. White. Humanist vampire seeking consenting suicidal person. She doesn't look much like anything but white. New Life. Then you have Oddity. And then you have Speak No Evil and The Substance. And You'll Never Find Me. And that ends their list. Then I went to the next website with a list, which happened to be Variety. And if memory serves, this is the one. But we're not going to go there. So I started looking at their best horror movies of 2024 ranked. Then I started looking at Adult Swim, Yule Log 2, Alien Romulus, Frankie Frico, The Girl with the Needle, Street Trash, Abigail, The First Omen, Infested. I think you're seeing a pattern. Stop Motion, Immaculate, Strange Darling, I Saw the TV Glow, Humane, Oddity, Milk and Cereal, which, by the way, that face, oh my god, it's scary. The Coffee Table, Late Night with the Devil, Red Rooms, The Substance, In a Violent Nature, Nosferatu, and Long Legs. Now, I'm expecting you guys to see a pattern here. Rotten Tomatoes. It's a list of the 100 best horror movies, and of course Sinners has a 98% rating. Then you have Late Night with the Devil, Oddity, Companion, Mads, Heretic, The Damned, The Devil's Bath, VHS Record, The Substance, Presence, A Quiet Place, Day 1, Smile 2, blah blah blah. Then I went to Vulture, which had the 19 best horror movies of 2024. And it starts with Cuckoo on number 19, Abigail, Oddity, Mads, VHS Beyond, Immaculate, Strange Darling, What You Wish For, In a Violent Nature, The First Omen, Alien Romulus. Sleep is the first one that I see that is not a white film. Heretic. Then you have The Substance. Smile 2 is number 5. Nosferatu is number 4. Red Rooms is number 3. A Quiet Place Day 1 is number 2. And I Saw the TV Glow is number 1. And by the way, I'm only taking into consideration the movies that I see that have a black director, maybe a black writer, and most of the cast is black, as black films. We have Fangoria. This year was a feast, the best horror movies of 2024. The Substance, The First Omen, Nosferatu, Heretic, Late Night with the Devil, Abigail, Lisa Frankenstein, Oddity, A Quiet Place Day 1, Maxine, which I didn't see mentioned on the other ones, and Terrifier 3, I Saw the TV Glow, and Cuckoo, Long Legs. Chime is not an American film. Exuma is not an American film. And House of Sayuri is a Japanese film. Smile 2, and that's it. So I don't know if you see a pattern, but I do. But which leads me, let's be honest, this is a very good segue into the second reason why I wanted to make this video, and is this little cute thing that people were doing where they were going through their TikTok talking about how they walked out of the film because according to them it gave them the heebie-jeebies or they had some sort of reaction. So anyway, the thing about it is that several people went out walking. So the reason why I found this very fascinating is for several reasons. Number one, I don't know if you noticed, but most of the, even in a climate where horror films are not number one or number 10, I mean, the closest thing was Nope, which was 14. Last year, the top film was 19. The top horror film was number 19. On average, they make $137 million. Here's the thing. I don't know if you noticed, and that's why I show you the list of the top grossing horror films of 2024. There's a lot of white films there. That's why I also show you all those lists of all those other sites, because there's a lot of white films. But let's go through history, shall we? We had Megan. I don't know if you remember Megan, but the clip itself, the trailer was weird enough for me to say, oh no. I don't recall this amount of people claiming that they walked out of the theater because they felt an evil presence. The Call, Omen, however many versions of it there's been. A Quiet Place, the original. You remember how big that movie was? And yet I don't remember people coming to TikTok talking about how they had to walk out of the movie and make a big stench about it. Now, let me be very straight. There are movies that are so, the reaction is so gut-wrenching that people leave the theater. I am aware that that happens. There's also cases where the movies are so bad that people walk out of the movie theater. That is not a problem. But there's something very interesting about people either creating rage bait by claiming that they walked out of the movie film or claiming that there was a strange evil presence in the movie. Now, if you are so susceptible to evil presences, why are you in a horror movie to begin with? And why this movie? If you are a horror fan, you've probably seen many horror movies throughout the years. You didn't have that problem with Nosferatu. You didn't have that problem with A Quiet Place. Did you have that problem with, I don't know, the shows that have been big hits like the American Horror Story or Walking Dead or even The Last of Us or, I don't know, any of the shows or movies that clearly a lot of people have watched because they have been big hits. You had a problem with this little black film, didn't you? If you think I'm trying to infer that you somehow a little something, yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. So let's go to the third reason why I decided to make this video, and that was because not enough with some Wonderbreads deciding to make videos claiming that they had to walk out of the movie theater because an evil presence came at them. And by the way, nobody is so susceptible to evil presences like Christians. It's amazing to me, but I digress. There was this Latino person who came up with this whole spiel video on, I think it was a TikTok, about how Latinos deserve their flowers and how dare you copy From Dusk Till Dawn and then not give Latinos their flowers. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with the United States in the 1920s, which is when this movie is set, around 1920s, 1930s. There was not a lot of Latinos in the South, other than Florida. And those Latinos were more like Spaniards, not Latinos. I would say there weren't many at all. There were some in Texas. There were some in California, obviously. There were in New Mexico. Those areas that bordered Mexico. Plus, we're not gonna get into the specifics about the border changing throughout the years, but you know what I'm trying to say. If you know, you know. Anyway, bottom line is that I believe this was either, I don't know what state it is. I want to say it's Mississippi. I'm not sure. But the bottom line is that there were no Latinos back then in that area. So their presence would not be something. You have to understand that these people did their research. And if you see the video, specifically the video that I'm showing you, the young man that is making these videos He did a series of 16. They're fantastic, by the way. He's the reason why I want to watch the movie. And he was talking about all the research and all this other stuff. And he also mentioned that the director actually talked about Rodriguez, who happens to be the director from Dust and Dawn, being an inspiration to him. But he also mentioned all the other inspirations that he received to make this movie. When you look at the storyline of From Dawn Till Dusk and you see the storyline of Sinners, not the same story at all. I'm sorry, but I don't agree with him. And I also don't agree that just because you have a few Latinos in a movie, that's a Latino movie. If From Dusk Till Dawn is a Latino movie because the director was Latino and you had was it Salma Hayek? I can't remember who it was, but there were like 2 or 3 Latino actors in this movie. If that makes you think that that is a Latino movie, then Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter 3, has to be a Latino movie because the director was Alfonso Cuarón. See how stupid I sound? Well, that's how you sound. Just saying. Not every movie has to have representation from every possible group in the planet. Last but not least, and yes, I'm reading, I wanted to talk about the message that this movie, one of the messages in this movie, because there is I believe it's a conversation, and keep in mind I haven't seen the movie yet. There seems to be some sort of subtext or conversation between the Irish vampire and preacher boy, and the message that some people have interpreted in this movie has to do with the fact that religion was yet another tool that was used to enslave people. Now, you might not have been here when I said this, but when I was explaining on one of my videos why I was no longer Catholic, I explained that I had come to the realization that, unfortunately, the Catholic Church decided to join Christopher Columbus in their discovery of America and their colonization, basically. And religion was used to put people in check. And unfortunately, Latinos fell for it hard. If you go to pretty much every Latino country, we have a big chunk of our people are Catholic. And so Catholics did to America Latina what Christians did to Americans. And all of them did it to the slaves. Because one of the things that I find fascinating about people when they talk about American slaves is that they don't see beyond themselves. They don't realize that every single island in every single country had slaves. But the reality is that every single country from North America, Central America, and South America, and the islands in the Caribbean, which, by the way, are part of America, because guess what? We were discovered first. All of that, yeah, all of them had slaves. Absolutely every single one of them. And in the countries where you speak Spanish, yeah, the Catholics took over. But in the countries where you speak English or French, the majority of the preachers were Christian preachers, and they came from England, and they did the same thing they tried to do the same thing to the Native American tribes and to the slaves than the Catholics did to the Native Americans from Puerto Rico, Cuba, all the way down, Mexico, all the way down to Patagonia and everywhere else. It is very well documented that this was the situation. They all had to bring their priests, which is quite ironic when you consider that one of the funniest things to me is that when the founding fathers founded the United States, they wanted separation from state and church because they were escaping religious persecution. But they were more than happy to create their own churches and develop their own systems of religion so they could train the slaves and basically take their beliefs out of them and instill in them the Christian beliefs. And we are so foolish that we still believe in all that. We had our own people. We had our own systems of belief, but we adopted the Christian beliefs, and we still to this day think that this is not part of the system that enslaved you. And when I heard about that part of the movie, I was so happy that somebody with a huge platform, because of course I talk to 20, 30 people at most on this channel, but not that you guys are not important. What I'm saying is that the reach that that idea has is a lot smaller for me than it is for somebody with a movie that made $124 million in 2 weeks. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the movie. And yes, as soon as that movie comes on streaming, I am going to watch it because I think it is important. I think it's important to support people who may not have the full-blown support of Hollywood and are creating amazing movies for us to watch. I'm just scared of horror movies, so I don't know how I'm going to pull this one off. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.